I never thought the most painful moment of my life would happen in such a quiet room. No shouting. No drama. Just a ticking clock and a stack of papers. The lawyer's office smelled like old carpet and stale coffee, and I remember thinking how ordinary everything looked. That's the strange thing about life-changing moments, they don't announce themselves. They just arrive. If you've ever trusted the wrong people, or believed family would never hurt you, stay with me. What I'm about to share still doesn't feel real, even to me. Before I continue, if emotional, real-life stories like this matter to you, take a moment and subscribe. These stories carry lessons people often learn too late, and you don't want to miss what comes next. My husband Robert and I were married for 32 years. We built everything together. There were years when money was tight, years when work consumed him, and years when illness slowly changed the man I loved. But through all of it, I believed one thing without question: he would never leave me unprotected. When he passed away, the house felt hollow. Friends told me I was strong. My children told me everything would be okay. I held on to those words like a lifeline. I truly believed them. The day of the will reading arrived faster than I expected. Our 3 children sat together, unusually calm. No tears. No tension. I told myself everyone grieves differently. I sat quietly, hands folded, heart heavy but trusting. The lawyer began reading. Investments. Properties. Accounts. Each item was followed by a name. My sons. My daughter. Even a distant relative. I waited patiently, convinced my name would come last. But it didn't come at all. As the reading continued, a strange tightness formed in my chest. I glanced at my children, expecting confusion, maybe even outrage on my behalf. Instead, they avoided my eyes. That was the moment fear whispered something I didn't want to hear.
But now, alone in the house, that memory gnawed at me like a key I hadn't yet turned. That night, after my children left, I found myself standing at the top of the basement stairs. The air smelled damp, familiar, and a little musty. I didn't know what I was looking for, only that something was waiting. Slowly, cautiously, I descended the stairs. My fingers brushed over the walls, the shelves, the boxes Robert had stacked over the years. And then I saw it, a small, steel box tucked behind an old shelf, just where I remembered him saying it would be. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside were documents, carefully organized, neat, and deliberate. A second will, signed and notarized just months before his passing. Letters addressed to me, explanations I had never received. Proof that everything I had been told, everything my children had claimed, was not the full story. Robert had left me a safety net, a way to protect me from the people who had betrayed his trust. I sat on the cold basement floor and let the tears come. Not from grief, not from anger, but from relief. The weight that had pressed down on me for days, weeks, lifted slightly. I realized then that Robert had anticipated the worst. He had prepared for betrayal even from the people I had trusted most in this world, my own children. I read the letters over and over. Robert explained that he had noticed subtle manipulations, late-night conversations behind his back, and moments when our children's concern had shifted into something else, something calculating. He wrote that if I was reading this, I would know the truth, and I should trust myself to take the next steps. I stayed down there for hours, feeling his presence more strongly than ever. By the time I left the basement, I knew my fight was just beginning. The house, the money, the inheritance, it all belonged to me, legally. But reclaiming it from my own children would be another battle entirely. And I realized, with a pit in my stomach, that this story was far from over. The next morning, I called the lawyer listed on Robert's second will. His voice changed the moment I explained why I was calling. He sounded nervous, almost as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Bring the documents in immediately," he said. I felt a flicker of hope for the first time in days, but also a tension I couldn't shake. When I arrived at his office, I placed the steel box and its contents on his desk. The lawyer carefully examined each page, flipping through the letters, wills, and notarized forms. His eyebrows rose as he realized the significance. "Mrs. Harris," he said slowly, "this changes everything." I felt a mixture of relief and fear. Relief because Robert had protected me. Fear because I knew the coming weeks would be anything but easy. The lawyer explained the process. I would need to file the second will officially in court. My children could contest it, but the documents were airtight. Every signature verified, every date clearly marked. Robert had thought of everything. My heart sank when he mentioned the possibility of confrontation. I wasn't ready to face my children in court, not like this, not after all that had already happened. But I knew I had to. Over the next few days, I prepared. I read Robert's letters repeatedly, trying to memorize his words, his reasoning, his love for me. I packed a small bag for the courthouse, rehearsing in my mind how I would speak, how I would hold myself. Each time I thought about confronting my children, a mix of anger and sadness surged. They had laughed at me, dismissed me, and tried to erase me from the life I had built. And yet, underneath it all, I still loved them. The day in court arrived. Walking into the building, I felt the weight of every memory, every betrayal, pressing down on me. My children were already there, whispering among themselves, glancing at me with expressions I couldn't read. My stomach churned, my hands trembled slightly, but I kept my head high. The proceedings were formal, cold, and emotionally draining. My children's attorney tried to claim confusion, claiming the second will was invalid or misleading. They spoke with confidence, as if rehearsed in front of a mirror, but their words didn't hold weight against Robert's meticulous preparation. Every document was cross-referenced, every letter signed, notarized, and dated. The lawyer's calm explanations reinforced my confidence. I felt Robert's presence guiding me, giving me strength I didn't think I had. Hours passed like days. I tried to focus on each word, each pause, each piece of evidence presented. Occasionally, I glanced at my children. There was anger in their eyes, certainly, but also shock. They hadn't expected Robert to plan so carefully, to foresee the betrayal, to ensure that I would come out protected. And though I wanted to speak to them, to make them understand, I stayed silent. Silence had become my shield. By the end of the day, the judge requested a brief recess before delivering the decision. I stepped outside, taking a deep breath of cold air. It hit me then, the battle wasn't just about property. It was about trust, love, and the choices people make when faced with temptation. I felt drained but resolute. And when the judge finally returned to deliver the ruling, every word felt like a heartbeat in my chest, each one echoing the truth Robert had left for me to uncover. By the end of the day, the judge requested a brief recess before delivering the decision. I stepped outside, taking a deep breath of cold air. It hit me then, the battle wasn't just about property. It was about trust, love, and the choices people make when faced with temptation. I felt drained but resolute. And when the judge finally returned to deliver the ruling, every word felt like a heartbeat in my chest, each one echoing the truth Robert had left for me to uncover. The judge's words hit me like a wave I wasn't prepared for. The second will was upheld. Every asset, every account, every piece of property Robert had set aside for me was legally mine. Relief washed over me, but it was tempered by exhaustion and the silent ache of disappointment. My children didn't react the way I had imagined. No tears. No apologies. Just cold, quiet faces that avoided my eyes. I realized then that victory could feel so hollow when it comes at the cost of family. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt the weight of what had happened settle in fully. People often assume winning a legal battle is a moment of pure triumph, but in reality, it's complicated. You gain material security, yes, but trust? Love? Those were shattered, perhaps forever. I thought about the house I had grown up in with Robert, the basement where secrets were kept safe, and the life I had thought I understood. Nothing felt the same. Returning home that day, I decided to walk through each room slowly, breathing in the memories. The house had survived decades of laughter, arguments, holidays, and quiet evenings. It had seen Robert's love, his frustrations, his care. And now it would see mine. I knew I had to reclaim it, not just legally, but emotionally. Each room I touched felt like a step toward healing, each corner like a small reclaiming of the life I had earned. The basement, of course, was the first place I went. I cleaned it thoroughly, organizing Robert's files and making the space lighter, brighter, safer. The steel box that had once contained his secret will sat on a shelf, a reminder that love can be protective even when unseen. I sometimes lingered there, sipping tea, thinking about how close I had come to losing everything, not because of strangers, but because of betrayal so quiet and calculated that it almost seemed invisible. And yet, despite everything, I still loved my children. That was the cruelest part. The people who had hurt me most deeply were the same ones I had nurtured, taught, and supported. Every day, I wrestled with the conflicting emotions of relief, grief, anger, and a deep, aching sorrow for what could have been. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to a quieter rhythm. I learned to accept that some things couldn't be fixed, no matter how carefully planned or legally protected. I focused on the things I could control: my home, my routine, and my own well-being. I planted flowers in the garden Robert had loved, arranged books on the shelves, and even started keeping a journal of the memories and lessons he had left me. But sometimes, when the house was silent and I was alone, I could still feel the sting of betrayal. I thought about the moments my children had smiled at me, but smiled at someone else behind my back. The legal victory could restore material wealth, but it couldn't restore trust. That, I realized, would take more than time. If you're watching this and have ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, comment below. Tell me your story. I want to know that I'm not alone, that others have navigated pain, loss, and betrayal, and somehow found a way forward. Sharing your experience can help someone else see that even in heartbreak, there's hope. And if this story resonated with you, share it with someone you care about. It may remind them to appreciate the people who truly love them. Life in the house slowly began to feel like mine again, but not in the way I had expected. Every morning, I would wake up and glance around, remembering that the space I walked through had once been filled with tension, whispers, and betrayal. Now it was quiet. Peaceful, yes, but still haunted by memories of how quickly trust could be broken. I realized that reclaiming my home legally didn't automatically restore the feeling of belonging. That had to be earned one day at a time. One afternoon, while sorting through Robert's old papers in the study, I found a small envelope I hadn't noticed before. Inside were letters he had written to me over the years, letters I never received while he was alive. Some were simple notes of love, others contained advice and reflections about life, family, and the importance of protecting what mattered most. Reading them now felt like sitting across from him once more, feeling his voice guide me. It reminded me that even in betrayal and loss, there is love that endures quietly, unseen by the world. The children, of course, had stopped contacting me. Phone calls went unanswered, messages ignored. At first, I felt anger and sadness. How could they treat me this way after everything I had done for them? But as weeks turned into months, I began to accept that some people choose paths that others cannot understand or forgive. I focused on what I could control: my life, my home, and the legacy Robert had left me, not just materially, but emotionally. Friends and neighbors noticed the change in me. I smiled more easily. I laughed again. I hosted small dinners, shared stories, and felt the warmth of community that had been missing during the darkest days. And yet, whenever I passed by the basement door, memories of betrayal and secrecy would surface. I sometimes imagined what might have happened if I had never found the box. If I had trusted blindly. If I had left the house without question. The experience taught me more than any legal battle ever could. It taught me about vigilance, about self-respect, and about the quiet strength required to protect yourself even from those you love most. And it taught me that love sometimes requires boundaries, that standing up for yourself is not betrayal, but survival. One evening, sitting in the living room with the fire flickering, I reflected on the journey. Robert's voice echoed in my mind: trust what I leave behind. He had given me not just the house, not just money, but the courage to navigate a world where even family could fail you. It was a lesson in resilience, patience, and understanding that love is complicated, and sometimes protective in ways that are invisible until the moment you need it most. If this story has touched you, or made you think about your own family, share it with someone you care about. And comment below, how would you have reacted if you were in my place? Your thoughts may help someone else navigate similar pain. These are the moments where conversation matters, where connection matters, and where sharing your voice can turn heartbreak into understanding. Months passed, and the house slowly transformed from a place of pain into a home full of quiet strength. I started spending more time in the garden, tending to the flowers Robert loved. Each bloom reminded me that life could grow again, even after loss and betrayal. And yet, despite the small joys, I couldn't shake the memories of that day at the lawyer's office. The shock of being left out of the will, the silence of my children, the hollow feeling of betrayal, it all lingered. One evening, while going through old photo albums, I stumbled upon a picture of Robert and me on our 25th anniversary. He was smiling, holding my hand with a look of pride and warmth I had almost forgotten. I ran my fingers over the photo and felt tears prick my eyes. He had protected me, yes, but he had also left me with the task of rebuilding trust, not just with others, but with myself. I realized that the hardest part of loss isn't just missing the person, it's discovering who you are without them. The children, predictably, continued to avoid me. Birthday calls went unanswered, and even family events became opportunities for them to ignore my presence. Each silence hurt more than the legal battle ever could. I had gained security in the home Robert had intended for me, but I had lost something far more fragile, the warmth and connection with my own family. It was a bitter lesson, one that no document or court ruling could remedy. Despite the pain, I made a decision, would not let bitterness consume me. I focused on friends who supported me, neighbors who cared, and moments of solitude that allowed me to reflect on the love Robert had left behind. I painted the walls, rearranged furniture, and even started cooking the recipes he had loved, small acts that reminded me that life could still hold beauty, even amid grief. The basement remained the symbolic center of everything Robert had prepared. I organized the documents neatly, keeping the steel box as a reminder of his foresight. Sometimes I would sit on the basement steps with a cup of tea, remembering the day I discovered the second will. That moment had been both terrifying and liberating. It showed me the power of preparation, of thinking ahead, and of protecting the people you love, even when others fail you. As I looked around the house, I realized how much stronger I had become. Robert had left me more than money or property. He had left me the courage to face betrayal without losing myself. He had given me a blueprint for survival, and I intended to live it fully. The house no longer felt like a place of sorrow. It had become a testament to resilience, love, and the lessons learned through pain. If you've ever faced betrayal or struggled with the silence of loved ones, I want you to comment below. Share your experience, your emotions, your story. And if this video resonates with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the smallest act of connection can remind someone that they're not alone, and that even in the darkest moments, there is hope. As the months passed, I began noticing subtle shifts in myself that I hadn't expected. I laughed more freely, my shoulders felt lighter, and I started to reclaim small joys I had long forgotten. But sometimes, late at night, I would catch myself imagining how differently things could have gone. What if I hadn't found the steel box in the basement? What if I had left the house quietly, believing I had no right to fight? The thought made my chest tighten, a reminder of how close I had come to losing everything, not just property, but my dignity and my voice. One rainy evening, as I sat by the window with a blanket over my knees, I reflected on the depth of Robert's foresight. He had trusted me to follow the clues he left, to uncover the truth when deception surrounded us. And I had done it. But what haunted me was the cost. The silence of my children, the absence of connection, the betrayal I had never anticipated from those I loved most. I realized then that some victories are bittersweet. You win, but the price is the fracture of bonds you can never fully mend. Despite that, I began slowly embracing the life Robert had protected for me. I started redecorating the house, adding little touches that reminded me of him. The basement, once a place of secrecy, became a personal sanctuary, a space where I could think, remember, and feel close to him. I even hung a small picture of us on the wall near the steel box, a silent tribute to the man who had ensured I would not be left helpless. Occasionally, the children would reach out. Short calls, vague messages. I answered politely, keeping my composure, but I knew the relationship had changed forever. Their trust and closeness had been broken, and no legal ruling could restore what had been lost in the moments of betrayal. I had to accept that love sometimes comes with boundaries, and protecting oneself is an act of strength, not weakness. Friends noticed the change in me. I shared some of Robert's story with them, not the private family details, but the lesson of resilience, vigilance, and quiet courage. And as I spoke, I realized how many others could relate. Betrayal isn't always obvious, and it often comes from unexpected places. But uncovering the truth, protecting yourself, and finding peace amidst the chaos is something we all can learn to do. I often return to the basement, cup of tea in hand, reflecting on the journey. That one moment of discovery, the steel box, the hidden will, was more than a revelation. It was a turning point. A reminder that even when the people closest to you fail, the ones who truly love you will find a way to protect you. For me, that person was Robert, quietly, wisely, and completely. If this story has moved you or reminded you of your own family struggles, please share it with someone you care about. And comment below, how would you have reacted if you were in my place? Your story matters, your voice matters, and your perspective could help someone else find the courage to face betrayal, protect themselves, and move forward. Months had turned into a full year since Robert passed, and the house finally felt like a true home again. I walked through the rooms with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in decades. The laughter of friends and the quiet warmth of routine replaced the tension and betrayal that had once filled the air. Yet, deep inside, there remained a quiet ache, a space where my children's absence lingered, a reminder that some wounds don't heal simply with time or legal victories. One afternoon, I decided to revisit the steel box in the basement. I hadn't opened it in months, but something compelled me to check. Inside, the neatly organized documents seemed to glow in the dim light. The second will, Robert's letters, his careful notes, they were a testament not just to his foresight, but to his unwavering love and trust in me. I realized that even though life had become complicated, I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable of navigating a world where trust could be fragile. As I sat there, a thought came over me: this house, these memories, and even the betrayal were now part of my story. A story of resilience, love, and survival. I had been tested in ways I never imagined, and I had discovered that strength doesn't always come from victories or court rulings. It comes from endurance, patience, and trusting yourself to do the right thing when others fail you. Occasionally, the children reached out again. Short messages, vague phone calls, polite inquiries. I answered with composure, never letting anger or disappointment dictate my words. Deep down, I understood that some bridges, once burned, can't fully be rebuilt. And while it hurt, I realized that protecting myself and honoring Robert's legacy was far more important than clinging to relationships that had caused harm. I spent the evenings reflecting on the lessons this journey had taught me. Trust wisely. Protect yourself. Value love, but recognize when boundaries are necessary. These were lessons Robert had quietly prepared me for, hidden within letters and a steel box in the basement. And now, having faced betrayal and emerged intact, I felt a sense of empowerment I had never known before. If you're watching this and have ever faced betrayal by someone close, know that you are not alone. Comment below and share your story. Your voice matters. Sharing your experience might help someone else find the courage to stand strong, even in the face of heartbreak. And if this story resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes, one story can change the way we see our own struggles. Even as the house settled into a peaceful rhythm, I never forgot that fateful day at the lawyer's office, the silence of my children, and the steel box that held my salvation. It was a reminder that life can be unpredictable, and that sometimes, the people we trust most may fail us, but the love and wisdom we carry, and the courage to protect ourselves, can guide us through anything. The first quiet evening after the court ruling, I sat alone in the living room, a cup of tea warming my hands. The house was finally mine, every room a reminder of Robert's love and foresight. And yet, the silence of my children lingered like a shadow. It was strange, having everything I thought I needed and still feeling the ache of absence. That's when I realized that sometimes, the hardest part of inheritance isn't the money or the house. It's the trust, the connection, and the moments that can never be reclaimed. I walked slowly through the rooms, pausing by each photograph, each memory Robert and I had shared. I smiled softly, remembering small, everyday moments, the way he would always leave a note in my bag, the way he tended the garden, the quiet jokes we shared over morning coffee. It hit me then that his love had never been conditional, and that even in the face of betrayal from those closest to me, I had been given a gift far greater than property or money, the knowledge that I was valued, seen, and protected. That night, I returned to the basement one last time. The steel box sat neatly on the shelf, untouched for months. I ran my fingers over it, remembering the shock, the fear, the heartbreak, and then the relief that followed. Robert had trusted me to find it, to act on the truth, to reclaim not just the material inheritance, but my own strength. Sitting there, I finally understood that the basement had been more than a hiding place. It was a classroom, a sanctuary, and a symbol of the love that endures even after someone is gone. Life slowly settled into a new rhythm. I focused on friends, community, and the joys that had been overshadowed by betrayal and loss. I laughed again, I cooked again, I found peace in small things, the rustle of leaves in the garden, the warmth of sunlight on the floor, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. And I knew that although the relationships I had once taken for granted could not be fully repaired, I was strong enough to continue forward, carrying both the lessons and the love Robert had left behind. If you've stayed with me till the end, I want to ask you something. Comment below and tell me, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you loved, and how did you find the strength to move forward? Sharing your thoughts could help someone else realize they are not alone. And if this story touched you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today. One story can remind someone of the power of resilience, trust, and self-respect. As I closed the basement door and walked upstairs, I felt a quiet peace I had not known in years. The house, the inheritance, and the love Robert had left me were safe. And for the first time, I understood fully that survival isn't just about winning, it's about embracing your strength, honoring love, and choosing to move forward even when the people you expect to protect you fail. That, I realized, is the true inheritance.